Well, welcome everybody to my Facebook Live show. My name is Mary Hyatt, and I am thrilled that you are spending the middle of your Wednesday with me on an incredibly powerful topic, and one that I feel like does not get enough attention. And this is our relationship with food. I feel like so often women have all of this stress around food, around what we are eating, and we aren't sure if we're being good or if we're being bad. And we talk about cheating and having to pay penance at the gym the next day. And it's a really dysfunctional relationship with food. And I want to give you several steps on how to begin to make peace with food and come to a place where you actually freaking enjoy eating again. So we're going to get into all of that today. But if this is your first time joining, welcome. Like I said, my name is Mary Hyatt. I am a life coach, entrepreneur, and presidential diamond with doTERRA. And my passion is helping women to wake up, to find their voice, and ultimately to become fully alive. So let's get started and start the show. All right. Well, this is a topic that I feel like is really near and dear to my heart this week. I have really been kind of brought face to face with this issue, actually. This is a journey for me of several different years of getting to the place where I have finally come to peace with food, with my plate, with what I can eat, and giving myself unconditional permission to eat literally anything, and actually trusting my body, actually listening to my body. But this week, I was super triggered, you guys, because I started to realize that I still had some of this old way of thinking where I was restricting and limiting what I was eating when I went to go get a cup of coffee the other day. And I didn't used to drink coffee, because for me, coffee was one of my forbidden foods or forbidden drinks. It was one of those things where I just felt like people who drink coffee have trouble waking up. They have an addictive personality. Coffee has all these extra calories, and calories equals being fat. And I had all these judgments surrounding coffee. As I say it out loud, I'm like, how silly that one little cup of something that is just a drink was so offensive to me. But I wouldn't drink it. I literally wouldn't drink coffee. And about a year ago, I started to drink coffee, and I've always enjoyed the taste of it. I just had too many judgments to give myself permission to do it. So I started to drink coffee, and y'all, I really like it. So my cup of choice is a vanilla latte with almond milk. And if you guys want to share in the comments, I want to know what your favorite coffee drink is. What kind of coffee? I feel like you can tell a lot about a person based on the kind of coffee drink that they drink. So comment below and tell me what kind of coffee you enjoy. But I caught myself last week getting to the place where I was limiting how often I was drinking my coffee. And I was like, okay, well, I can drink it on the days where I'm going to go to a coffee shop, but I'm not going to drink it at home. I can drink it a couple times here, a couple times there, but I didn't want to drink it every single day. And so for me, what was so interesting about that is I got caught up in this relationship with food where I was afraid of it. I was afraid of coffee, and I don't even really know why. It was like this weird rule that I thought, well, maybe I can still be in control as long as I limit it. And so I started to think about that a little bit and think through, okay, well, what's that really about? And do I really have freedom with food and peace with food? And I would say for the majority of that relationship? Yeah, I do. But there are these little hooks, and I thought, oh my God, I got to get on Facebook Live and talk about it. Okay, Krista, you said vanilla tea or chai tea latte. Yes, totally love it. Carissa, you said Americano with a little vanilla syrup and cream. That sounds delish. Stephanie, you said coffee with honey and a splash of half and half. Yum. Y'all, I would really drink all of those. Like, they sound really, really good. But it's funny because we really have a weird relationship with food. Like, I know that every single person on this show today has a wackadoodle relationship with food in some form or another. So I want to get into that. So if you are not at peace with food, you are going to know it if you are still counting calories, you diet or you cleanse or you do a fix on the reg, you skip dessert and consider yourself good, you cheat. If you cheat, you do penance at the gym tomorrow for it. Oh my gosh, how many of us have been there? You read all of the food labels, you restrict certain foods, maybe you skip meals, you judge people for what they choose to eat, you don't trust yourself with food. If you cringe when you think about the words pleasure, enjoyment, desire connected to the word food, then it's pretty clear that you have not made peace with food yet. So how eye-opening is that? Like, okay, guys, out of that list, which one do you find yourself doing the most? So comment in the comment section below. I'll throw this up here again for you to look at. But which of these do you find yourself really getting caught in? Where is your inner dialogue? What patterns and habits are you stuck in? So go ahead and write that in the comment section for me. Let me know what's going on there. But the amazing and challenging thing about our relationship with food is that anytime we resist something, it basically becomes an obsession. So anytime we push anything away in our life, we restrict it, we ban it, we limit it, it becomes an obsession. It's all we can think about. And so if you are restricting foods or when you're on a diet, sometimes that becomes all you can think about. And I love that saying. I can't remember who this originated from, but what you resist persists. Now, when you are at peace with food, when you give yourself unconditional permission to eat anything, you have no resistance. You're not struggling. You're not pushing away. It's like having an open hand towards this issue. And Rebecca, you said that you definitely still consider certain foods good or bad, and you're judgmental of others about their food choice, and obviously judging myself. Yeah, totally. Like any judgment we have on somebody else and their choices is ultimately a judgment or a fear for ourselves. But this stress that we have about food is actually way more harmful on our physical bodies than the food that we're eating, which is crazy. So I've been reading all these different books, and there's just, oh my God, pages and pages of research on the effects of stress on the body that literally have such an impact on our digestive health, on our emotional state, on just even our body's like process of inflammation and cortisol. Stress is the worst. And so when we are resisting, when we're fearful, when we're scared to death that if we eat the wrong thing, it actually creates so much more harm to our bodies than if we could relax around food and maybe we don't eat something maybe we eat some processed food or something like that. It's still a lesser offense to our bodies than the stress about it. So I want to pause for a minute and talk about diets, because we can't talk about food, I feel like, without talking about diets. They go hand in hand, and certainly with our modern day culture, we live in this like really sickening diet culture that's now getting more and more clever with kind of pairing itself up with the healthcare industry and healthy choices and healthy eating. These are all diets that are disguised. And it's getting more and more clever, but I'm starting to kind of pick up on these subtleties and going, oh my God, like that's just a diet in disguise. So I just want to call it out. I just want to say it for the record, y'all, that diets do not work. They do not work. And research shows over and over again that people aren't keeping the weight off. Maybe there's like an initial weight loss, but ultimately, like less than 5% of people actually keep weight off long term. And in reality, they actually gain more weight back than they started with. And the truth is that anytime there is a plan that you sort of give yourself over to and somebody else's idea of what is going to be best for your body, that plan is ultimately going to fail, hands down. And so what is so important is we have to take back the control of what it is that we are putting in our mouths and decide to work on trust with ourselves, with our bodies, and to begin to learn how to hear our voice and intuitively make those decisions. And so kind of the biggest part of today's teaching is that in order to make peace with food, there's pretty much only one rule, okay? In order to make peace with food, there's only one rule. And this is to give yourself unconditional permission to eat anything. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. To give yourself unconditional permission to eat absolutely anything. Now, I know that can feel a little scary because in your mind, you're probably saying immediately, well, no, there's good and bad foods. I can't eat that, or I shouldn't eat that, or if I eat too much of this, I'll lose control, or if I eat this, it's gonna make me fat or gain more weight, and then I'll never lose weight, and then I'll never be lovable, and I can't trust myself. That's normal. That is totally normal to have all of those fears come up because we aren't used to trusting our bodies. We aren't used to trusting ourselves around food. The industry has made this problem to where we cannot trust ourselves around food, so that we have to go buy diet programs, fitness programs, diet meal packaging, all these kinds of different things. You know, I think about like Nutrisystem and Jenny Craig and all these different things. We are sold those because they have been basically teaching us a lie that we aren't to be trusted. We don't have enough willpower. We can't do this. That if the human public, the American public, were left alone with food on the shelves, it would be a bad day. Like nobody's to be trusted. People would be pushing each other over in the aisles and just like eating all this food and shoving everybody. And then we wake up and it's like the story of Wall-E, you know, where nobody can walk anymore, you know, and we're just like in these little motorized cars. That is the fear. That is the legit fear that we have around food, that if we are left alone with food, we're not to be trusted, which is the biggest lie. Like food is such an incredible nourishment and gift and source of enjoyment and pleasure. And there is a part of ourselves that knows how to have a healthy relationship with food. We just have to get back to it. So I love this quote from one of my favorite books called Intuitive Eating, which is, if you tell yourself that you can't or shouldn't have a particular food, it can lead to intense feelings of deprivation that builds into uncontrollable cravings and often binging. So the reason that you feel like you can't trust yourself is because you're in this cyclical cycle of diet, binging, famine, feast. And anytime you restrict something, you obsess about it. It's all you can think about. But once you give yourself unconditional permission to eat, there's something that happens. It's like the anxiety comes down and you begin to trust yourself again. And that you realize over time that you're not going to continue to eat 3 packs of Oreos every single day for the rest of your life if you give yourself permission to eat Oreos. You're not going to do it. I promise you, you're not going to do it. You might do that for the first day or two or the first week, but you're not going to do that long term. So let me explain this. So my dear friends, you guys, check them out. So Ander Wilson and Amanda Adams from Hot and Healthy, they talk all about intuitive eating. They're just like the coolest chicks, so amazing. They're some of my close friends, and they talk about this a lot. So they say, when food is forbidden, it becomes irresistible. Even crappy food starts to seem dreamy. Conversely, when food is freely available to you, it loses its magic. This loss of magic that occurs because you have access to food over and over again is called habituation. And the massive problem with dieting is that when you restrict food, you do not experience habituation. This means that food is always magical and always irresistible. And diets, of course, are incredibly seductive. They are made to be seductive. It feeds us this lie, that, okay, well, maybe this time they have finally figured out the winning combo and it's going to help me lose weight. Like however many years ago it was the low fat trend, and then it was the high fat trend, and then it was the high protein trend, and then it was the low carb trend. I mean, guys, we really have been through all the options. Right now it's the clean eating trend, it's the juicing trend, it's all of these trends, the keto diet, all these different things that are fed to us that are the next best thing, that's the next thing that's going to get you that perfect body that you've always wanted. I mean, how many times have you heard on commercials or read in magazines that this is the secret, all the secrets to losing weight, secrets to having a washboard abs, secrets to XYZ. How long has this been going on? And then you look at where we are at, and the true reality is that this is like so common sense, but I don't know where we've lost it. Like, there's body diversity in this world. There are a million different types of bodies, right? Like, my body will never look like Kirsten Dunst. It will never be a size 2, 5'4", 110 pounds. Never if I want it to be. My body will also never look like, Serena Miller? What's her name? No, who's the girl? Who's like the, guys, you got to tell me. The tennis player who just has like the rockin' curvy bod. Serena something or other? Anyways, you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm never going to have her body. Like, guys, I did not inherit an incredible ass. Like, my ass is so flat, and I do so many squats, I'm here to tell you, in the gym. And I mean, I got a little roundness to it, but like, unless I were to get butt injections or implants, it's not going to happen. There is real life body diversity out there, and no diet that I do is going to give me a completely different body. It's just not going to happen. And so we have to look around and realize that there is a lie that we're being fed, and it is being fed to us by a $60+ billion diet and exercise industry that is lying to us and teaching us too that it's our fault, that if we only had more willpower, we would do this. And we begin to find our relationship with food really awkward, really forced, really stressful, really shameful. And so what happens is that when we think we don't have control, it creates, again, this inevitable cycle. So we go and seek out somebody to tell us what to do. And what happens the week before a diet? You guys, please tell me. Serena Williams, thanks, guys. The week before a diet, we literally put every single thing in our mouths that we are going to restrict on Monday. We totally gorge, we totally binge, we go hog wild, and we start off strong in a diet. Most people start off really, really strong. They're like, I got all this willpower, I'm excited. We've seen the before and after pictures. And then we quote unquote fail. And that just reinforces this belief that the problem is ourselves, and that we have to strictly control our plates again. And we start looking for another diet that might work better for ourselves. The one that's really going to work this time. So we have zero trust in ourselves, zero connection with our bodies, and we get back into that diet cycle. And it creates incredible dysfunction with food. And I hate that, y'all. Like, it really is stressful. Like, when you are in that cycle, that stress that you have around food, not trusting yourself, not knowing what to choose, going back and forth with good foods and bad foods, and you're punishing yourself when you cheat or you have a treat. God forbid you enjoy your food. And I really believe that that is not the way that we are supposed to live our lives. Like, that is ultimately prison. We have been putting ourselves in a food appearance prison that has left us really at a point without much power, because we're so hyper focused, we're so obsessed on all of this that it zaps our energy for the things that actually truly make us come alive. And that's why I'm so passionate about this topic. So I want you to kind of think about our society at large for a hot second. And if you guys have any comments about this, about seeing these patterns and these trends, and maybe you're having like an aha moment where you've seen yourself in this cycle, please comment. Like, we can totally get into it. So here's the thing. We now live in a society that's all about feast or famine. And we either binge or we purge. We're either good or we're bad. And we truly don't even know what it looks like to be in a relationship with ourselves around food where we can trust ourselves around it. And so I want to create some awareness. And this is where I'm going to need you guys to comment, okay, for me. So I want to see, as always, because I'm a life coach, we have to understand what our patterns are to begin with. So let's create some awareness around our forbidden foods to see what it is that you feel like triggers you. Okay, so comment below, what are your forbidden foods? So I know for me in my past, my forbidden foods were coffee, were soda, were gluten, oftentimes a lot of sugar. I went like through periods of eating sugar, not eating sugar, processed foods for sure. I went through a really hyper psycho season of bad foods, forbidden foods being anything that wasn't local. And so I would love to know, what are your forbidden foods? And if you feel like you have a healthy relationship with food, awesome. Start to see, are there anything or any foods that I am still forbidding or restricting, even at just a little bit? Okay, we've got chocolate. Rebecca, you said soda, carb, sugar, cheese. Tina, you said pasta. Christy, you said donuts, pizza. Chancellor, comfort foods. Yeah. So these are all going to be common forbidden foods. Now, here's the second part of this question that I think is going to require that you dig a little bit deeper in this. And this is going to begin to shift for you this dysfunctional relationship that you might be having with your food. And this is, what is the benefit? So when you forbid these foods, what does it give you psychologically? Like, what happens when you eat your forbidden foods? What's the benefit? Or sorry, not when you eat them, but what happens when you have forbidden foods? So maybe one of the benefits of having forbidden foods is that you feel healthy. One of the benefits that you might have is that you are under an illusion of control. Maybe you are able to say that you're being good, that you are always, working towards something, that there's some element of you that is trying, that you haven't given up. So what are the benefits that you are receiving from forbidding, restricting some of these foods? All right. And I love that some of you guys are saying that you eat everything, but you still feel guilty. So that's a big piece, right? So which foods make you feel the guiltiest would be a great question to ask Kara for you. So what's the benefit, guys? Now here's the deeper part. So we're just getting a little bit deeper, as deep as we can on Facebook Live. What is the cost? This is a big one. So what's the cost of having forbidden foods? Not what's the cost of eating them. What's the cost of having forbidden foods? So maybe one of the costs is that you don't enjoy eating anything. Maybe one of the costs, like Kara and Chancellor, you guys said that you feel guilty. Maybe one of the costs is that you are stressed out of your mind. Maybe one of the costs is that you walk around hungry all the time. Maybe one of the costs is that you walk around sick or weak. Maybe one of the costs by forbidding foods is that you don't get to enjoy celebration with people or going out to eat with people. So what's the cost of forbidding these foods? Susan, you said, I don't want to get out of control. Christy, you said, I feel inner peace and control. Right. So those are some of the benefits. So what are your forbidden foods? What's the benefit of having forbidden foods? And what is the cost? So I really want to get clear on some of that because I think that is really important, because what happens is anytime we have forbidden foods, it creates what a lot of people call the Last Supper complex, where it is where you eat everything in sight before you go on your cleanse, before you go on your diet, before you go on your reset, your whatever, right? So there is this idea that you have to go out and eat your last supper because you're not going to have it anymore. And the reality is, and I want to drive this home today, is that food is not the enemy. Food is not the enemy. Food only becomes a problem when we forbid it. Think about that for a second, y'all. Food only becomes a problem when we forbid it. Like if we didn't forbid food, there would be no issues. All of the issues where you feel like you can't trust yourself, you feel like you'll be uncontrollable, that you'll just go crazy, all of that is created by an unhealthy relationship to food because you're forbidding it. Can I get some like hearts and some thumbs up for that one? Because I feel like that's like a mind-blowing moment for myself. Even I'm like, oh shit, like that's good. All those issues come because we forbid it, because we become obsessed with not having it. If we give ourselves permission, it's like, think about it this way, in any other relationship, not to food, if you can't have water, what do you think you're going to be thinking about all day, every day? Water. If you can't, like kids, right? If you can't drink alcohol as kids, what do? They become obsessed about it. They go off and drink in private. It becomes secretive. They drink way more to excess than they would than like kids who grow up on wine in Europe. We have a lot of lessons to learn from those Europeans. I am here to tell you when it relates to alcohol and food. But the minute we restrict, it becomes an obsession. The minute we restrict, we get issues. So that's what we're talking about. So we have to begin to look at a mental shift for ourselves. And this is where it really does start with treating all food as equal. Treating all food as equal. All right. No foods, these are all mental shifts. No foods are good or bad. They're all equal. And you have permission to eat what you really want. Like really, like you have permission to eat what you really want. And there is no penance anymore. This is not about weight loss, okay? This is not a weight loss talk. It's an anti-diet talk. If you feel like in your body, I know for me, when I was much heavier, I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of anxiety and depression, a lot of hormonal balance, because I was eating avoiding a lot of emotions for myself. And that's not the case with everybody who is in a larger body at all. And I'm like so curvy friendly and healthy at every size. And actually it's healthier if you have fat on your body. Okay. But I know for me, I wanted to lose some weight only because I was literally in a lot of pain. I was physically in a lot of pain for myself. I lost weight by having this mental shift. I didn't go on a diet. I didn't start exercising. It wasn't about that. It was about getting to the point where I could trust myself again around food. Like getting to the point where I loved food again, that I found pleasure in food, that ultimately I woke up to my emotions. It was really this beautiful process. And so when you truly free yourself and your food choices without any like hidden agenda of restricting anything in the future, or where you're trying to restrict foods to lose weight, or anything like that, you really eliminate the urge to overeat. Your body begins to come to its set point. Your set point weight, your body begins to come back into balance because it doesn't have all this stress that you typically are going to see around food. And the only way that you're going to come to believe this and be able to trust yourself if you are able, and if you're able to stop eating. Like one of the fears is I won't stop eating. Totally can relate to that. The only way through that is going through the food experience, to actually eat, to do this work, to actually give yourself permission to unconditionally eat. And right now, I know that you probably don't trust yourself. And so we have to begin to cultivate that trust. And it comes from this place of creating a new body connection, listening intuitively to your body. And we'll get into a lot of these different elements. So if you guys will comment in the comments below, give me just a number one. So just type in a number one if you're feeling like, okay, this idea of letting myself eat whatever I want to eat sounds really good. Like, what if I could actually have freedom from this war with food? Type in a number one if this is feeling good, if this is feeling exciting, if this is feeling like something you actually might explore, might try to do, because I want to know who is doing this so we can talk about it offline later. But I now want to give you the 6 steps to make peace with food and ultimately to call a truce and to find pleasure again. I love that you guys are typing in the ones. Kara, Rebecca, Carissa, Susan, I love it. Okay, so let's get into our lovely steps because this is the nitty gritty. This is the work, right? This is how you actually do it. So the first step to making peace with food in this mind-body connection is to notice your hunger. It has to start with hunger. Are you biologically hungry? We cannot approach food until we've connected with our bodies. When are we hungry? What's going on? What are the sensations in our body? And if so, in that moment, once you notice, oh my God, like I am hungry, okay? I am physically, biologically hungry. You give yourself permission to eat in that moment. So no more skipping meals, no more counting calories, no more deciding if you eat after 6 p.m., you are going to gain weight or any of these weird food rules that somebody somewhere in some book told you, right? You notice your hunger and you give yourself permission to eat. Super simple, but like so important not to miss. Now, the second step, this is to me is kind of the fun one. I like this step a lot because it is about curiosity. And this is where you ask yourself, what sounds good? So you've noticed that you're hungry. You give yourself permission to eat. And then you ask yourself, what do I really, really want to eat? Now, immediately your brain's going to say, well, I should eat XYZ because I had this for lunch or I had that for breakfast. So let me eat this, which has less calories. You're going to start kind of making all these negotiations in your brain. And you go, oh my gosh, thank you. That's just my old patterns. That's my old way of thinking. Thank you for being here. I hear you. And we're going to just turn the volume down on that. And let me get back in touch with this intuitive part of myself. What sounds good? What do I really, really want to eat? And eventually you're going to be able to even ask your body this. This is like, to me, the pinnacle of intuitive eating, when you can ask your body, hey body, what do you need right now? What would sound really good to you? What would really nourish you and energize you and give you everything that you need in this moment? Pleasure, nutrition, all of that. And you will be able to hear that from your body. Like, for example, I've been like feeling a little bit lightheaded the past couple of days. And I was at a graduation on Sunday and I felt really weak. And I'm like telling my boyfriend Bentley, I'm like, man, like I don't even know what's going on. I feel really like healthy in my body, but I'm feeling really, really weak. And so I kind of closed my eyes and I said, okay, body, what do you need right now? What is it that you want? And immediately my body's like, you need to eat some steak, honey. And I really think that I had an iron deficiency. And so really asking yourself, number one, what do you really, really want? And then what do you need? Okay, so what sounds good? That's the second step. So you're bypassing all the shoulds and you're getting back in touch with trusting yourself and listening to your body. Now here is the third step, which is, you guessed it, to give yourself that unconditional permission to eat whatever it is. So this is really fun. I remember doing this exercise years ago. So whether you are somebody who tends to eat out a lot, or if you like to go shop and cook your food at home, this is going to work no matter what. I'm somebody right now who eats out all the freaking time. I feel like I never cook at home anymore. But a couple of years when I was doing this exercise, I was cooking a lot more at home. So I went to the grocery store, and you can start at the grocery store or at a restaurant, and you literally give yourself permission to buy or to order anything that you want. Now we're starting to make peace with food. So this is beginning to build that trust that you don't have limits or restrictions on your food or forbidden food. So you order anything. Or for me at the grocery store, I literally was like, I'm going to give myself permission to eat and pick out anything that sounds good to me. So I walked around and I got some olives from the Olive Bar. I got some really delicious local chocolate. I got some gourmet cheeses. I got some great crackers. I got some really lovely oranges that were in season at the time. I got myself a bottle of wine. I got myself some hummus. And it was like, this is what my body really wants right now. And before, all of those things would have been off limits. And I was like, I'm going to have a French night. Oh, and I got this like amazing baguette at the bakery. And I was like, I'm going to give myself permission to just literally go around, instead of like having to get everything that I am supposed to get, that I just pick out what looks good, what smells good, what I think is going to taste good, and literally go around and not even question it, but give myself permission to buy anything. Now, if you are at a restaurant, this is where you look at the menu and you give yourself permission to choose anything that you want on the menu. So, okay, guys, is there anything that you've been really secretly wanting to eat that you haven't been letting yourself eat? If so, put it in the comment section. I want to know, and I hope that you will go get that today. But nothing is off limits here. Nothing at all. No, like really nothing is off limits in this part of the process. What does your body want? What sounds delicious? Okay? This is really important. Now, the fourth step in really making peace with food and finding the pleasure is that in this process, whether you're at a restaurant or you are choosing your foods at a grocery store, you're going to include one of your forbidden foods at each meal. Okay? And this is where you sort of have to begin to let all of that go. So you're going to introduce a forbidden food for yourself. Now, if you are obviously allergic to something, please don't eat it. But if this is forbidden because you think it's a bad food, or because you think that it's a food that is not healthy, or whatever, that's what I'm talking about, okay? So you're going to introduce one of these forbidden foods and give yourself permission to eat them. Because what you want to do is begin to cultivate that trust. Like, no, body, I really promise, I really mean that we're going to eat everything now. I really give you unconditional support to eat anything. And so you've got to reintroduce yourself to those foods. Now, feel free to eat as much as you want to of this. Eventually it will level out. And because right now you're still in that Last Supper phase, because you've been avoiding it, because you've been forbidding it, because you've been restricting it, your natural inclination is you're going to feel like you want to gorge yourself on this forbidden food. That's totally okay. That's not going to last forever. This is a cycle. It's like you got to go through it before you kind of come back to center, okay? And this is where step number 5 is like so powerful in this process. And this is my favorite step out of all of the 6 steps. And this is to make this experience sacred. You guys probably know by now that I am like really into beauty and making my space really beautiful. And so that's why I love this one. But you want to make the eating experience sacred. So if you're at home, if you're going to cook some food, and if that has been a very rushed experience for you in the past and stressful and whatever, give yourself another 10 minutes to make your dinner than you typically would, so that you can pour yourself a glass of wine, you can put on some music, and you can just kind of give yourself permission to enjoy the experience of cooking. That you make this sacred, that you actually set your table, that you put some flowers on your table, maybe a candle, maybe you have some essential oils going on. Maybe you, have some great dishes that you haven't been using that have been like sitting in your china cabinet for forever. Use those. Make this really a beautiful, sacred experience. Invite your whole family to it. And if you're at a restaurant, slow down. So many of us eat so fast. that we actually don't get to enjoy it anymore. So slow the process down. Order an appetizer. Order some wine. Pretend that you're European. Like Europeans, y'all, it takes like 2 or 3 hours to eat any meal. Now, I know most of us don't have that time, but just take a little lesson from the Europeans and just do it like just a little bit, okay? A little bit longer. Slow the process down, okay? Make it sacred. Make it beautiful. Treat it like you're actually going to experience pleasure from it. Like it's a special date with yourself. I love seeing you guys' comments on what you would eat. Poutine, Kara. I love it. Go, girl. Can't wait to hear how that goes. Okay, so the last and not least of our 6 steps to make peace with food is to check in. Now, this is kind of a really cool process to do in the moment that to me is the most powerful mindfulness exercise. It's really going to help increase the level of trust with yourself and your body connection, okay? So as you're eating, you've created this beautiful experience, you've chosen whatever you want, you've given yourself permission to eat. As you're eating, pause. Check in with this process. This is a big key. Put your fork down in between bites and chew your food. Taste your food. The more you chew, the more those taste profiles are going to burst in your mouth. If you're eating something, swirl it around in your mouth, really, really taste it. All right, so slow down to put your fork down and taste what you're eating and ask yourself, okay, am I satisfied? Like maybe halfway through your meal, you pause and you say, okay, how am I doing? Am I satisfied? Am I full? How full am I feeling? Do I need more food? Breathe. Just take a freaking second as you're eating and breathe. And without any kind of judgment, just ask yourself, am I still hungry? And if you are, awesome. Totally give yourself permission to eat. Or ask yourself something like, is there anything else that I would want from this meal? Do I need to put some extra butter on here or get some salt and pepper or whatever? Like pause. Is there anything else that you need in the eating experience? And then this is a cool question. Ask yourself, so as you're eating your forbidden foods, ask yourself, does the forbidden foods taste as good as you thought they would? I had this experience the other day. I was eating a bowl of cereal. Oh, that was like a huge forbidden food for me. I had a bowl of cereal the other day, and it was kind of gross. Like I, in my mind, had made cereal up to be this like literally manna from heaven that was going to just taste amazing. And every time I would go to the store, I would look at the cereal aisle and I would just want all of it, but it was forbidden, so I couldn't do it. Because if I did, it was going to just unravel. So I have given myself permission to eat cereal now and again, but I really don't enjoy it. Like I don't find it pleasurable anymore. I would much rather eat like a fried egg with some avocado and some sprinkled cheese on top. Like that's way more pleasurable to my taste buds than a bowl of cereal. But I didn't know that because it had been forbidden. So ask yourself in this process, is it really as good as I thought it was going to be? And we really want to work at making our food pleasurable again. And that requires slowing it down. So notice if you're hungry. That's the first step. Then we have to ask ourselves, what sounds good? All right. Give yourself permission to go to the store and buy anything or go to a restaurant and order anything that you want. The fourth step is to include one forbidden food in each of your meals. The fifth step is to make your dining experience really sacred and really beautiful. And then lastly, to check in with yourself and seeing, are you satiated? Are you happy? Is it tasting good? Chew your food, put your fork down in between bites, and enjoy it. So I hope that this process of looking at kind of a really messed up industry and how we feed off this diet culture and these forbidden foods over and over again is actually creating a much bigger problem than if we actually just let ourselves eat freaking food. That if we let ourselves enjoy food. I promise you, because I've been doing this now for 4 or 5 years, I think, nothing bad is going to happen. You might go through an ebb and a flow of this like overeating and then you level out and all this. That's all part of the process. Intuitive eating, come back coming back home to your body is something that has been researched over and over and over again and actually has long-term benefits. And you stop being at war with food and you actually enjoy it. Like, just imagine a world where you didn't stress out about food. Imagine a world where you could just eat whatever you wanted to eat. Imagine a world where you didn't feel like you had to go punish yourself or feel guilty for eating bad foods or that you cheated. Now, that is our world that we live in. I'm around people all day, every day who are counting calories and using low-cal sweeteners and all this stuff. And I have to just let them do their thing and keep my mouth shut. And I just think, God, I'm so thankful that I'm free from that. And you can be free from that as well. And little by little, building this trust with yourself. And of course, if you want to really get into this deeper, that book, Intuitive Eating, is so my favorite. And of course, keep following me. Keep coming back, because we're going to get into this stuff all the time. That's why I'm creating my online course about making peace with your body and loving yourself. But guys, I want to just say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for joining me, for being brave enough to comment and share with me. That was so fun to be able to have you guys interact. I hope that I will see you next week, same time, same place. And in the meantime, check me out on Instagram, because that's where I show my Insta stories. I have great little photos of things that I think are just helpful at driving this point home. So I hope you will find me over there, Mary G. Hyatt. But I hope you guys have a beautiful and fabulous rest of your week. And just to remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. Thanks, guys, so much.